welcome to the Blonde Book Nerd. My name is Shania. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you here. And if you're coming back, welcome back. So today I thought I would do a video about some historical fiction books that I have and I haven't read yet that I would really like to. Keep in mind this is not all of the historical fiction books I own, which is part of the problem. I have so many. But these are just a few that I pulled off my shelf that sound interesting. And some of them aren't talked about as much as some of the more popular ones, so I thought it would be interesting to kind of go through, chat about some books that I hope to get to in the near future. The first book I have to talk about, the reason I'm interested in it is because it is set in a country that I don't normally read about. The book I'm talking about is The Girl in the Blue Coat by Monica Hesse. This book is set in Amsterdam during World War II, which one of the things I love reading about World War II is because so many things happened and it was so widespread globally that I can't read enough. I can't learn everything that happened, but I'm going to try. In this book, the main character, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce, ultimately ends up looking for a Jewish teenager who an elderly woman has been harboring and has gone missing, and the woman wants her help finding this teenager, which obviously during Nazi time would have been a very big risk. I'm really excited to read this one. I've heard good things about it, and it'll be nice to read about a part of World War II that I don't really know much about. The next book I have is set in Canada. It's actually set in North Bay, Ontario, which I am Canadian. I live in Ontario. I have family in Northern Ontario, past North Bay, but still I've been through there many times. And I thought this would be really interesting to read. And that is The Quitline Sisters by Shelley Wood. This book is about the Dion quintuplets who were born in North Bay in 1934. And what happened to them is the government took them away from their family and put them on display. They actually made this museum and people paid to go see them because they were the first, I believe they were the first quintuplets to actually live, all 5 of them. Yes. And if I remember right, I believe the house in North Bay that they used as like the museum is still there. So this is really interesting. The Ontario government was horrid to these 5 ladies, and I'm really excited to learn more about what happened to them. I know some of them are still alive today, not all 5 unfortunately, but I believe they live in Quebec now. And this is just such a piece of Canadian history that isn't really talked about, and I think it's because they were treated so poorly, but their story it deserves to be heard. So I think I'm going to pick this one up relatively soon actually, because just talking about it really sparked my interest in reading it. So the next one I have is another World War II historical fiction. This is one I've heard so many good things about on BookTube and from people I know in real life. I love this author's other books, so I don't really know why I haven't picked this one up yet, but I think it needs to happen because people have ranked it along the lines of The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. When I say I love that book, people tell me to pick up this book, and that to me is enough. That's all I need to know. I want to read it. The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult. So Jodi Picoult is an author who you either love her or hate her. I happen to love her. She writes books that make you think about things that you wouldn't. She puts you in positions where you have to think about moral dilemmas, and even if you think you know how you feel, she makes you see the other side, which I find so interesting. So this one is actually about a woman who meets a man, an old man who everyone loves. He's a well-cherished member of the community. So my understanding is that this man asks the main character, Sage, to kill him because he was a Nazi during the war, and dealing with the repercussions of that, and that's really all I know, but it sounds so good and I'm really excited to dive into this one. So the next book I have has been all over BookTube for the past couple years. It is about something, time in history that I actually didn't know about until I heard about this book. I've heard no bad reviews about this book. Everyone seems to love it, and that makes me think, why am I not reading this? I want to talk about it. And the book I'm talking about is Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. This book is set in Tennessee. It's about the Tennessee Children's Society and a woman named Georgia Tann who would actually take babies from the hospital, and they would tell their parents that they died when they didn't, and they would sell them. So they would sell these children through an adoption agency, and I believe she had some sort of judge kind of in her pocket, which is how she got away with it. And this book is set in, what year? So this book is set in Memphis in 1939, and it's based on true stories. Georgia Tann was a real woman. The Tennessee Children's Society was real. And because I don't know anything about it, I'm really excited to learn more. I'll be honest, I don't know a whole lot about the next book I have here, but I know enough to know that I'm interested in reading about it. I haven't read a lot about this time period in this particular country, or this country in general. So I'm excited to pick it up, and that is A Bend in the Stars by Rachel Barenbaum. This is set in 1914 in Russia, and I believe the main character is a scientist or a doctor. Yes, she's on the verge of becoming one of Russia's only female surgeons, which I love books about smart women, strong women who break down the barriers, and especially in 1914, women had a lot stacked against them. So I love reading books about women that overcome those challenges, and it really helped pave the way for us today. And I'm really excited to dive into this one. I've kind of heard mixed reviews, but I want to give it a chance. So that's A Bend in the Stars by Rachel Barenbaum. Well, the next two books I want to talk about are wholly inspired by my obsession with The Crown on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do so. I haven't seen the whole thing. I'm on season 2. I kind of watch it every now and then, but it really sparked an interest with the royal family. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Other Windsor Girl by Georgie Blacklock. This is about Princess Margaret, Queen Elizabeth's younger sister, who is a bit of a rebel. She was very controversial. She didn't like being told what to do, and that obviously stirred up some trouble for the royal family, who's very regal and has standards they need to uphold. So I have an e-version of this book. I don't know a whole lot about it. All I know is rebel princesses, yes please. The next one I have is also a TV series. I have not watched it yet, but I thought if I read the book and I like it, that's something I can look into. Victoria by Daisy Goodwin. I believe Daisy Goodwin actually wrote the PBS special as well, so they should go together pretty well. This is about Queen Victoria, obviously, who I don't really know a whole lot about her. Really, all I know is that the reason, fun fact, the reason women wear white dresses at weddings is because Queen Victoria decided to wear white to her wedding. That actually wasn't a thing before her. Before that, women just wore their best dress they had, and that was about it. But she actually started the tradition of white wedding dresses, which I find very interesting. So the final book I'm going to talk about, I also have an ebook version of it, so I can't physically show it to you, but that is At the Wolf's Table by Rosella Postorino. This book is about the women who taste tested Hitler's food. So that sounds kind of weird, but Hitler was very paranoid that someone was going to try to kill him, and I mean, can you blame him? So what he would do is, before he would eat the food that was prepared for him, he had taste testers try it first so that he could make sure it wasn't poisoned. If something happened to them, he'd know he shouldn't eat it, and if they were fine, then he knew the food was safe. I don't really know a whole lot other than that, but it's such an interesting concept, and the fact that he had taste testers, he put their lives at risk to make sure he wasn't being poisoned. I just find that so crazy. Like, who does that? I know Hitler was a very bad man who did unfathomable things, but it's such a strange concept to me to wrap my head around. So the book sounds really interesting, and I really like to read it. That is it that's all I have today. I said that is not all of the historical fiction I own, but it is a good chunk. Kind of gives you a look into the type of historical fiction I like to read. World War II is probably my favorite to read about, but I really like branching out. Sometimes I find if I read too much, I almost start to feel like they all blend together, which is not great. So I like reading about different time periods. I like learning about different events, especially if they were true events, because I love to learn. That is it. If you are interested in any of these, let me know down in the comments below. If you've read any of these and you think I need to pick it up sooner, I would also love to hear. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.